Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Humans are still Space Dwarfs, written by TheStabbyBrit. For 3 weeks straight, the Galactic Forum had been assembled. For 3 weeks, they had tried and failed to resolve a growing crisis. It seemed that another war was about to start between the Groby and the Ubexi. At this time, it threatened to boil well beyond mere border skirmishes. Some feared that this could be the Great War, a war that would not end until one side was utterly destroyed. At least 2 species knew exactly which of the 2 sides it would be who faced oblivion. Which is why Malkor, the Groby delegate, found himself in a private meeting chamber with Thorgrim Lawbringer, the representative empowered to speak on behalf of the High King of Sol and its associated territories. The human, who, at a pitiful 5 foot 10 inches tall, was the size of a Groby child, was nevertheless a being who radiated confidence, dressed in a fine blue ceremonial garb, and with the traditional axe of office at his hip. He looked more like a larper than a diplomat. Not that Groby would ever have said as much, especially now. "So," Thorgrim said. He packed a great deal into those 2 little letters. The Groby felt his knees go weak. I take it that you're aware of our situation," the tall green alien stammered. Thorgrim nodded, slowly and deliberately. With his left hand, the dignitary began to gently stroke his long, grey beard. His eyes fixed on the Groby, and when he spoke again, it was slowly, with purpose and care. "You want me to find some means to save your kind from war with the Ubexi, a conflict you would most certainly lose. That is a considerable ask, Malkor of the Groby." "I know," the Groby answered weakly. "I will not lie to you, human. Our 2 species have rarely seen eye to eye. But you must surely realize that this war is bad for us all." "Spare me the speeches. You haven't the time for that. If you wish to be saved by me, you must offer me something in return. You must pay a price worthy of the cost in lives that it will result. I want you on your knees, Groby. I want you to beg." After a brief pause, Malkor folded himself down onto his knees before Thorgrim. He bent low and pressed his bulbous forehead into the carpet between the human's boots. "Please, Thorgrim Lawbringer, I beg of you to save my species from the coming war." Thorgrim bent over and patted Malkor on the head as though he were a sad little puppy. "I'll do, Groby. Now leave the rest to me." When Thorgrim and his retainers reached the forum, the entire room was in uproar. The Ubexi delegation had center stage, led by Xanator, a bronze-skinned beast of immense physicality, and her head crowned with towering antlers. "I am through talking," the beast thing bellowed. "We have talked and talked for weeks, and nothing has been resolved. It is now time to settle this matter through force of arms. At long last, something Delegate Xanator and I agree on," Thorgrim shouted as he marched to his place in the ring of representatives. His outburst caused a brief stillness from the other delegates as they turned in confusion. Before anyone else could interrupt, Thorgrim continued, "Honorable representatives of the Ubexi delegation, I agree that we should turn this time-wasting banter into a contest of arms. However, it will be a regulated contest." "You are not empowered to dictate terms of war, human," Xanator shouted back. Thorgrim's eyebrows furrowed in anger. His right hand closed around his ceremonial axe as he raised the blade up for all to see with a cold, focused tone. "This axe I carry is a reminder of my purpose here, a mindful weight upon my hip as to the consequences of failure. If words alone cannot maintain order, I am to bury this axe into the table of peace and sunder the book of law. With that act, a state of war will exist between my species and yours. and it shall continue until one of us has been purged from the galaxy." Fresh mutterings filled the hall. "You would throw yourselves in with the Groby. Why?" "Because you no longer wish to speak. They do." Thorgrim's eyes shone with a terrible purpose as he raised his axe high above his head. "The axe falls, Xanatar of Abexi." "Wait!" Xanatar snorted. "I will indulge you for now. You wish for there to be rules to the war." The entire forum held its collective breath, watching the terrible still of Thorgrim. At last, with reverential care, he returned his axe to the proper place at his hip. The human took a moment to straighten his beard before clasping his hands behind his back and smiling, calmly, as though nothing had happened. "Yes, honorable friend, there will be rules. It will be a codified and contained conflict. One that— No, stop. We will not allow you to spend the next 10 years writing a damn encyclopedia to arbitrate for every potential event of the war with the Groby." Thorgrim took the interruption at his stride. "A fair point. You have wasted so much time already. I can understand why you are so impatient. Although it goes against everything I believe in, I am willing to offer you—" The human winced as though in pain. "A verbal contract. Short, in plain English, nothing written down and settled with a shake of a hand. Will that be acceptable?" Xanatar studied the human carefully, scrutinizing his elderly features for any sign of trickery or deception. "This is not like you, Thorgrim Lawbringer, but it does seem acceptable. What are your terms?" 6 terms and 6 terms only. Is that acceptable?" "That depends on what they are. Name them," the Abexi answered. Thorgrim nodded. "First, the war will be fought between named combatants only. Each side may bid a single army, an entire nation, or an entire species, but no more than what is expressly bid. Second, the war continues until one side's government declares surrender, or until the Galactic Forum judges one side is incapable of offering meaningful resistance. Third, the victor agrees to ensure a fair and decent treatment of the vanquished, providing them proper living conditions, food, resources, and so on. Fourth, the vanquished shall agree never again to take up arms against the victor. 5. The victor shall agree not to wage any form of offensive warfare for 20 years galactic standard following the end of this war. 6. If these terms are violated, the entire Galactic Forum shall agree to enter a state of total war against the transgressing party. The last condition caused a great deal of commotion, and a flicker of doubt briefly passed over Xanatar's bestial figures. Will you accept these terms, honorable friend? To his credit, the Abexi took some time to puzzle through what Thorgrim had said. His eyes swiveled back and forth as if reading a contract, puzzling through the words. His mouth chewed each sentence silently, looking for a bitter tang of trickery that he felt certain would be present. What is fair and decent treatment by the standards of this agreement? Thorgrim gave a gentle chuckle. I'm so proud of you. You're almost thinking like a human. No need for a suspicion here. It means exactly what you think it means. So long as it wouldn't get you charged with acts of cruelty towards living beings, it is acceptable. Xanatar's eyes narrowed. Then what is the catch, human? The catch? Well, now, the catch is if you aren't fighting the Groby. As the defender in this war, I bid humanity! Thorgrim announced, stressing the word humanity with the uncharacteristic drama. Wait, what? You're going to fight on behalf of the Groby. I do believe the defender has been bid friend. Care to bid the attacker? The Abexi had glanced about the room as though looking for support from the other alien delegates. Then, if you bid all of humanity, I shall bid the entire Abexi species. Thorgrim raised an eyebrow briefly, his old, stumpy arm raised to offer a handshake to Xanatar. Shake if you agree, and wish to be bound before all present to the spoken contract. The entire Urbexi species shall be bid as the aggressor in a war against humanity. Once again, the odd inflection. The Urbexi hesitated. Why do you keep saying humanity like that? Humanity is the proper pronunciation of the Defenders team, I assure you. Will you shake? A quiet murmur began to spread through the assembly, for now doubt and fear were clear to see upon Xanator's features. He shook himself, bared his square teeth, and growled fiercely to psych himself up, before grasping Thorgrim's hand tightly. I accept your offer of war, human. The two shook and broke apart. There was a pause that followed, broken only by a quiet cough from someone at the back. Thorgrim seemed utterly unconcerned that he had just pledged his entire species to war. That bothered everyone, the Urbexi most of all. I think, in the interests of respecting the galactic community, we should consider this a neutral ground. Do you agree, Thorgrim? Oh no, that'll be a complete waste of time. After all, we can just pop downstairs to the aquarium and you can end the entire war in a single bullet. Wait, what? Thorgrim wasn't listening. The human and his attendants were both heading for the doors. Come along, Xanator. Let's go get this war over and done with so that we can clock off and grab a pint. The entire forum followed the trio of humans as they headed out of the diplomatic building, winding down the outside staircase to the recreational complex, and, as promised, the aquarium. Xanator led the pack, shaking with equal parts anger and fear. As he hurried to close behind Thorgrim, the tiny human was almost crushed by the two occasions. At last, Thorgrim came to a railing in front of a large freshwater tank. Inside was a large grey animal that resembled a fish, albeit one made out of clay by a child with no talent for fine detail. Thorgrim tapped the railing's information panel and announced, Xanator, meet humanity, your opponent. The Urbexi stamped over and looked at the display. This isn't a human, it's a manatee. A manatee named Humanity. Oh, indeed, Thorgrim replied with a smile. In the end, everyone present agreed that the Urbexi had won the war by default, not that their representative seemed particularly proud of this victory. He meekly agreed to fund the aquarium exhibit for as long as the manatee wished to stay there, and then slunk away to have a cry in private. The rest of the forum were much more pleased with the outcome, and many took the opportunity to congratulate Thorgrim on securing the galaxy for 20 years of peace. At last, the approach was Malkor the Groby. He crept up to the squat human and afraid he'd be pounced upon, but Thorgrim seemed content to watch the aquarium. Thorgrim, I cannot thank you enough. I haven't exactly done your kind a favor, Groby. You have 20 years to prepare, and I hope you can prepare well. I'm not sure I'll still be here to drag you out of the fire next time. We'll not squander the time you've given us, I swear it, Malkor answered earnestly, but Thorgrim scoffed at the pledge. Ha! Groby, vows are like toilet paper. One quick kiss to the arse, and they are flushed and forgotten. Thorgrim glanced up at the tall, lanky alien. But I guess the old saying is true. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, Malkor finished. Dies next, Thorgrim corrected with a smirk. Although I suppose your version does work. Jog on, Grubby. Go home to your sad little corner of the galaxy and take credit for my hard work, like you always do. Just make sure your leaders never forget one thing above all else. Don't ever mess with humanity. End of story. Just a quick shout out to the T5 peeps. Bob the Dragon, Cat Crab Lobster, Data Magnet, Dark Machine, Bezic, Try Again 95, Fudic Yol, Astrea the Dreamer, Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Athelia, Meridian 117, and Jordan Bucksmorm. Thank you very much. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.